Hello, hello. I think we are on now. We're on and rolling. Uh, Last time we were together, which was not past Wednesday because we had a snowstorm, but the Wednesday before, right? We read all about Gideon and how God was able to use, quite frankly, the least likely man in all of Israel, right? In order to save Israel. We're still in the book of Judges. And so this week, as we continue on in our journey through Judges, we're coming to the very last one, the very last judge of Israel. We're going to find out that he's a whole lot different than Gideon. And pretty much he's different than any of all the other judges. Because honestly, I don't think this judge fully trusted God or even really knew who he was until the very end of his life, which should kind of go to show us that God can use anyone at any time in their life, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done. God can use you at any point in your life, young, old, no matter what. And he'll get the glory for it, one way or the other. And that's exactly what he does with a man by the name of Samson, the man named Samson. As we're going to find out tonight, Samson, right, the very figure that we use as a hero in children's stories, okay, wasn't even a very nice guy, Gary. He wasn't a nice guy at all. In fact, he was pretty horrible. In fact, he was terrible to his parents. He was a womanizer. And in general, he was a very, very violent man, Chris. Very violent. He had anger issues, okay? But yet, yeah, right? Okay, there you go. There you go. So we're going to start calling you Samson. Please don't do that. But yet we teach our children that Samson was a hero, right? But in reality, Samson wasn't a hero at all. You see, as we read, we're going to find out that it was God that was the hero in all of the stories. So let's pick up here. We're going to be in chapter 13 of Judges. And let's just kind of see where God takes us, because I'll be honest with you, I don't have a lot of Tom and Terry for you tonight. I might. I know, and God just, as I'm reading, God just fills me, and I just start talking. No, I don't.
I'm with you, Sarah.
Well, I'm just going to say I didn't plan any Tom and Terry tonight.
That sounds better.
How's that? All right, so Judges chapter 13, verse 1. Again, very first word, what's that say?
Israel didn't listen.
Again, right? That's kind of like us. Right, Tiff? It's just like us. Again, right? Again, which means what God did with Gideon, okay, didn't really take very well, did it? Didn't take very well. Again, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. Now so what does that mean? That means that they were under Philistine rule, right? They were no longer under Israeli rule anymore. They were under Philistine rule, okay? Now, there was a certain man from Zorah of the family of the Danites. Okay, who would be the family of the Danites? There you go. That was an easy one, wasn't it? Dan. And who is Dan? 12 tribes of Israel, one of the 12 kids, right? But whose kid was he? Well, yeah. Had to have been Jacob's. All 12 of them were Jacob's.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
So,
which,
Father?
yeah.
Yeah, you got me there. Shoot, Rebecca? No, that's too far back.
So, Dan was the oldest son of Bilhah. Who was Bilhah?
Sir.
Come on, guys. Don't I teach y'all nothing in here? Bilhah. I know, right? Gary's back. Ice cream cake. You ready for a nap now, ain't you? Okay, Bilhah was Rachel's maid.
I said she was a servant.
She was a servant, but you had to tell me who. That's what I was going for.
I just knew she was a servant.
How do you not know Rachel? You know Rachel was a cousin.
So, and Rachel was the one that Jacob loved, right?
Yes.
All right.
They couldn't bear it.
So Dan was the oldest son of Bill. Why I'm telling you this, I don't know. It's just made up stuff. I didn't have any commentary, so I thought I'd fill it in, right? And for a long night. All right, so the Danites. He's a family from the Danites. All right, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had no children. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, "Indeed, now you are barren and have borne no children." I don't know why, but every time I read this, I'm like, well, duh. I mean, isn't that what? I mean, it's like, okay, you're not telling me anything. Huh? I know, right? Thanks, Captain Obvious. You are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now, therefore, please be careful not to drink wine or similar drink, and not to eat anything unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Like I said, Chris, he could almost be a Samson back here, because he needs to get a haircut, don't he? I know, right?
It is okay. It's cold. I usually do a high and tight. It's just I'm no longer in the government with the government. I don't have to do it at all times, so it's a little
long. All right. So, okay, it says that the child needed to be a Nazarite to God from the womb. What does that mean? Anybody want to pick up and tell me what a Nazarite is? What does that even mean? It's a person that's been dedicated and set apart to God, but not just a person that's been set apart to God, because the Levites were set apart to God, right? The priests were set apart. A Nazarite is a very specific type of person that has been set apart to God. If you want to turn to Numbers chapter 6, we're going to read a little bit about a Nazarite, because you have to understand a Nazarite before you understand Samson. All right? Numbers chapter 6. Numbers chapter 6. It says, "Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when either a man or a woman consecrates an offering to take the vow of a Nazarite, to separate himself to the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and similar drink." Can't get drunk anymore, right? "He shall drink neither vinegar made with wine, nor vinegar made from a similar drink. Neither shall he drink any grape juice, nor eat fresh grapes or raisins." Now he's just picking on us, Gary. I like grapes. I've got a grapevine in my yard, right? All the days of his separation, he shall eat nothing that is produced by the grapevine, from seed to skin. All the days of the vow of his separation. No razor shall come upon his head until the days are fulfilled for which he separated himself to the Lord. He shall be holy. Then he shall let the locks of his hair, of the hair of his head, grow. All the days that he separates himself to the Lord, he shall not go near a dead body. He shall not make himself unclean, even for his father or his mother, for his brothers or his sisters when they die, because his separation to God is on his head. All the days of his separation he shall be holy to the Lord. This is what a Nazirite was. So let's go through the list. Not allowed to get drunk, right? No wine, no grape juice, nothing from the vine whatsoever. Okay, nothing, no grapes, no nothing.
Isn't there a rule about lying in church?
I don't
Right?
eat grapes.
I think there's a rule against lying, period. Not just in church. All right,
But
so
it's especially bad when you're doing
all right. So no grapes, no wine, no grape juice. Not allowed to be around dead bodies, right?
I don't understand that. That's insane.
That makes you unclean. Remember, all throughout Deuteronomy. I can't even talk today. Deuteronomy. Those were just rules that God had enforced. Is, if you're around a dead body, that's considered being unclean.
But didn't they carry certain remains out of Egypt?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a dead body.
That would mean one of them or a group of them would be unclean, and they would have to sleep outside the camp. It's not a sin. They're just unclean. Okay?
And how do they become clean?
They had to, that was a whole ritual we're not going to go through right now.
Depending on what type of unclean shower.
Right. There's all kinds of different uncleans, but to be around a dead body, to be around a vineyard, around grapes, around wine, around anything like that, right? Not allowed to cut his hair, right?
Not cut my hair.
And that was it. Hair, grapes, and dead bodies. Even if it's your mother or father or brother or sister, not allowed to be around any dead bodies. Now, a Nazirite, when you made a vow to become a Nazirite, I could come in here and go, you know what? I'm going to be a Nazirite, and I'm going to be a Nazirite for 2 years, right? And then that would be my time. I would set that up, and I would be a Nazirite for 2 years, right? It says in there that you would separate yourself for a specific time, okay? That you would dedicate yourself to God for that amount of time. Now, when the angel came down, he said, what? He said he's going to be a Nazirite from the womb until the day he dies. So he's going to be a Nazirite forever. So forever, he's never allowed to do any of this stuff. Okay? Don't work out for him real well, Gary. All right? Now, back to Judges 13. I just wanted you to know what a Nazirite was. As we read this, I want y'all to think about those items, right? And I want you to go, well, boy, wait a minute. Right? Okay. All right. So the woman came and told her husband, saying, a man of God came to me, and his countenance was like the countenance of the angel of God. In other words, she was saying, this guy came down and he looked just like an angel, right? Very awesome. But I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. And he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now, drink no wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb to the day of his death. So you can see here, He said for the woman not to drink any wine, not to make herself unclean, because this child will be a Nazirite from the very time of conception until he dies. God was setting this child apart, okay, for a very specific job, okay, from the very beginning of his life. It's really important to know, all right? Then Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, "O my Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come to us again and teach us what we shall do for the child who will be born." Just like a man, huh? Just like your wife comes to you and goes, "Hey, God told me something." And you go back and go, "Man, Lord, I don't know what she's talking about, but please verify that she ain't lying to me," right? And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came to the woman again. Notice, notice, Manoah prayed, "I need to know that what she just told me is true, right? And I need to know what I need to do." His wife just told him what he needed to do, right? Just told him what happened. And he prays, and what did God do? He sent the angel back to the woman. Why? Because men don't understand a whole lot all the time. We basically have to have the woman tell us over and over and over again, right? Anyway, and it still doesn't sink in. And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came to the woman again as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. Then the woman ran in haste and told her husband and said to him, "Look, the man who came to me the other day has just now appeared to me." So Manoah arose and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said to him, "Are you the man who spoke to this woman?" Are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, "I am." Manoah said, "Now let your words come to pass. What will be the boy's rule of life and his work?" In other words, he's saying, what's this boy going to do? Right? What's so special about this boy? What's he supposed to do? So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, "Of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful." In other words, everything I told her, everything she already told you, make sure that happens. Okay? "She may not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor may she drink wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean. All that I commanded her, let her observe." Now, why would he have to tell him this? It wasn't like America, right? Back then, the man ruled the roost. Whether you want to hear that or not, that's the way it happened, right? And if the man set a glass of wine down in front of his wife and said, "You got to drink that," she had to drink it. Plain and simple. She had to do it. No, not now. But that's why he says, "All that I commanded her, let her observe." He was basically saying, make sure that she follows through with what I said, okay? Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, "Please let us detain you, and we will prepare a young goat for you." And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, "Though you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you offer a burnt offering, you must offer it to the Lord." In other words, I'm nobody special, right? I am not special. You're going to do anything, offer an offering to the Lord. For Manoah did not know he was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, "What is your name? And when your words come to pass, may we honor you." When she has the baby, can I honor you? Maybe he was asking, what's your name so I can name my baby after you. That's how they would honor people. And that's why he said, "What's your name? When your words come to pass, may we honor you." He was asking if he could use his name. And the angel of the Lord said to him, "Why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful?" So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it upon the rock to the Lord. And he did a wondrous thing while Manoah and his wife looked on. It happened as the flame went up toward heaven from the altar the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the... That'd be a little odd to see. You're making an offering to God. Man standing here, you don't know he's an angel. At least that's what it said. It said he didn't know he was an angel to God. And he starts this flame on this rock, and all of a sudden this man that's standing here, straight up in the air, straight from the fire. That'd be kind of a wild thing to see, right? When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell on their faces to the ground. I think I'd be down there with them. They fell on their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord appeared no more to Manoah and his wife, then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said to his wife, "We shall surely die because we have seen God." And Manoah's wife has got to smack him upside the head and say, "Hey, dummy, that's not what God said." Right? That is not what God, we're not going to die because he made sure, right, to tell us we're going to have a child and we're going to raise a child, right? He's going to be a Nazarite. We're not going to die. But his wife said to him, "If the Lord had desired to kill us, right, he would not have accepted our burnt offering and a grain offering from our hand, nor would he have shown us all these things, nor would he have told us such things as these at this time." If he was just going to kill us, he wouldn't tell us we're going to have a baby, right? So the woman bore a son and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move upon him at Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol. Now Samson went down to Timnah and saw a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. So he went up and told his father and mother, saying, "I've seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. Now, therefore, get her for me as wife." Get her for me as wife. He's not very nice to his mom and dad, is he? I know, right? That's what I'm saying. He's not very, very honoring to his parents. Then his father and mother said to him, "Is there no woman among the daughters of your brethren or among all my people that you must go and get a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines?" So he's wanting to go get a wife from their enemies, from the people who are ruling over them, right? And Samson said to his father, "Get her for me, for she pleases me well." But his father and mother did not know that it was of the Lord, that he was seeking an occasion to move against the Philistines. God was seeking to do something with Samson, okay? Even though it was going and getting a Philistine wife, right? For at that time, the Philistines had dominion over Israel. So Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother and came to the vineyards of Timnah. Now, to his surprise, a young lion came roaring against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. And he tore the lion apart as one would have torn apart a young goat, though he had nothing in his hand. Number 5, on verse 5 here. So Samson went down to Timnah with his mother and father, with his father and mother, and came to the... He was a Nazarite. Should he have been at the vineyards?
No.
All right. Right? Check mark. A young lion came roaring against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. And he tore the lion apart as one would have torn apart a young goat, though he had nothing in his hand. This kind of... Sometimes you get in a bad place where you shouldn't possibly be. Sometimes we have to fight a lion in order to not have to fight the snake. You know, that's why I think that the lion was even part of it, is that was God keeping him out of the vineyard. It was a way to stop him from going any further. Anyway. That's a whole nother message that I've got, I've been working on. But he did not tell his father and mother that he had done what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. After some time, when he returned to get her, he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. What does the word carcass mean? All right, we've already hit a vineyard and a dead body, right? In just 3 verses. He turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the carcass of the lion. He took some of it in his hand and went along eating. When he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them. And this verse has always baffled me. Okay, you're walking along, right, Gary? And you come to a dead lion carcass that you had killed earlier with your bare hands, and you pick up a big old batch of honey, and you start eating it, right? Out of your hand. You just eat it. And then when you get home, I'm sorry, I ain't got no honey left when I get home. If all I've got some in my hand, right? But evidently he had enough left to give to mom and dad. I've never understood that. Surely he had something to carry it in or something. I mean, if he was taking some home to mom and dad, wouldn't you think, Dave? I would think, but it don't say that. It just says that he took some and he ate it on his way down the road. Anyway, when he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they also ate. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. Okay, so far we've came to 3 things, right? A Philistine woman. He wants to marry one of his enemies, right? Ladies. Wasn't supposed to do that. Only marry within Israel, children of Israel. Number 2, shouldn't have been in the vineyard. Number 3, body of a dead lion. Okay? So he's 3 strikes, you're out already, right, Gary? Not him. So his father went down to the woman, and Samson gave a feast there for young men used to do so. And it happened when they saw him that they brought 30 companions to be with him. Chris, it's not 30 women. 30 companions. These were his men's court for the wedding, basically, is what it was, okay? Like his best men and all of that. That was what, in other words, he was getting married, all right? Then Samson said to them, "Let me pose a riddle to you. If you can correctly," basically it was the bachelor's party, all right? So he's at the bachelor's party, and they're all having a good time, probably drinking from the wine, okay? And he says, "Let me pose a riddle to you. If you can correctly solve and explain it to me within 7 days of the feast, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing. But if you cannot explain it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing." And they said to him, "Pose your riddle that we may hear it." So he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet." Now for 3 days they could not explain the riddle. But it came to pass on the 7th day that they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband that he may explain the riddle to us, or else we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us in order to take what is ours? Is that not so?" Samson's wife wept on him and said, "You only hate me. You do not love me. You only hate me. You do not love me." You women ever said that? You only hate me. You don't love me. Right? All right. "You have posed a riddle to the sons of my people, but you have not explained it to me." And he said to her, "Look, I have not explained it to my father and mother, so should I explain it to you?" Now she had wept on him the 7 days while their feast lasted. And it happened on the 7th day that he told her, because she pressed him so much. Gary, pick, right? Then she explained the riddle. Let's see. Now she wept on him 7 days while their feast lasted. It happened on the seventh day that he told her because she pressed him so much. Then she explained the riddle to the sons of her people. So the men of the city said to him, on the seventh day before the sun went down, what is sweeter than honey and what is stronger than a lion? And he said to them, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle. Oh, that one always gets me. What does it say in the King James? I'm just kind of curious. Anybody got that one? Somebody tell me what it says in the King James. I'm really curious to know if it says the same thing. You got it back there?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, we'll just move on then. I'll find out later. I know, it's getting late, ain't it, Gary? It's almost the second round of cake and ice cream, ain't it? Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, and he went down to Ashkelon and killed 30 of their men, took their apparel, and gave the changes of clothing to those who had explained the riddle. So his anger was aroused, and he went back up to his father's house. So he comes up with a riddle at the bachelor party, right? They can't answer it. They dog his wife until she gives in and starts nailing him and dogging him over and over and picking. And he finally gives in and tells her what the riddle means. And she goes and tells them, right? And so now he gets angry because he's got to supply 30 sets of clothing. And so he goes to Ashkelon. Ashkelon, actually, if you looked at the map, Ashkelon is a long way away. So he probably went 2 or 3 days journey there, and 2 or 3, probably gone a week or more. And he goes all the way there and he kills these guys, takes the clothes off their dead bodies, right? Okay, takes the clothes off. He kills them, takes the clothes off the dead bodies that he's not supposed to be around, right? And he brings them back and he gives them to the guys. And he's so mad at his wife that he goes home to mom and dad. Okay? So mad that he goes home to mom. Yes.
Just say that basically says the same thing. That's what I was just getting ready to read.
That just cracks me up.
Yes, it does.
The Lord has a sense of humor too. If you would not have plowed with my heifer.
See that he has a sense of humor. He made me.
I know, right? Oh, man. Okay, so, and then he goes home to mom and dad, and that's where we're at right now. So his anger was aroused, and he went back up to his father's house. And Samson's wife was given to his companion who had been his best man. So remember when I told you he was given 30 companions? This is where you get the answer as to what a companion is. Okay, a companion during this time was his best man, right? That was where he was having his bachelor party, all right? And it says that, so his wife was given to his best man while he was gone.
And that is where the best man comes from for when people get married.
So he can pick up where he leaves off. Well, there you go.
That is actually true.
Good thing I didn't have any best men. After a while, in the time of wheat harvest, it happened, Samson visited his wife with a young goat, because she was a heifer. Okay, I'm done. I promise. And it happened that Samson visited his wife with a young goat, and he said, let me go into my wife, into her room. So basically, he got lonely, right? He was away with mom and dad, and he got lonely. He's missing his wife. But her father would not permit him to go in. Her father said, I really thought that you thoroughly hated her. Is not her younger sister better than she? How about taking her sister, right? Please take her instead. Samson said to them, this time I shall be blameless regarding the Philistines if I harm them. Then Samson went and caught 300 foxes. Samson was mad. Remember I said he had anger issues, right? He was mad. It says, so when Dad had given his wife to somebody else and wouldn't let him go in to see her, right? He's like, dude, this ain't going to work. And so he goes out, right? He says, then Samson went and caught 300 foxes, and he took torches, turned the foxes tail to tail, and put the torch between each pair of tails. So he took the foxes, turned them backwards, tied their tails, right, and stuck a torch in their tails. And now when they're running, right, they can't run this way, right? They have to run side by side. They've got a torch. What's the torch going to do? Create what? Havoc, right? You stick a torch in a fox's tail, he's going to run like crazy, right? And so he's got all these foxes. He ties torches to their tails, right, in between their tails. And when he set the torches on fire, he let the foxes go into the grain fields of the Philistines and burned up both the shocks and the standing grain, as well as the vineyards and the olive groves. The foxes went crazy, and they just burned the entire city to the ground, basically, right? Then the Philistines said, who has done this? And they answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timonite, because he has taken his wife and given her to his companion. So the Philistines came up and burned her and her father with fire. So, what happened to Samson? He got mad again, right? Samson said to them, since you would do a thing like this, I will surely take revenge on you. And after that, I will cease. Basically, he says, you burned my wife, you burned her daddy, right? So I'm going to take revenge. And once I do this, one time, I'm going to take revenge. And then I'm going home. Then I'm done. Okay?
I'm going home.
I know, right? So he attacked them hip and thigh with a great slaughter. Then he went down and dwelt in the cleft of the rock of Edom. So he slaughtered a lot of them, right? And then he runs off. And he runs off and hides in Edom. Now the Philistines went up and camped in Judah and deployed themselves against Lehi. And the men of Judah said, why have you come up against us? So they answered, we have come up to arrest Samson, to do to him as he has done to us. Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Edom and said to Samson, do you not know that the Philistines rule over us? What is this you have done to us? And he said to them, as they did to me, so I have done to them. So he runs off, right? The Philistines get angry, and they go chase him down. And so they don't know exactly where he went. So they go to Judah, right? And they encamp against him because they're going to attack him. And they come out and go, why are you here? What did we do, right? Why are you going to attack us? And they said, well, we're here to arrest Samson. Where's he at? You know, give him to us. We're going to, what are you going to do with Samson? We're going to do with him what he did to us. In other words, they're going to kill him. Okay. And so they go and they hunt down Samson. They're like, what did you do? He said, I did to them what they want to do to me. Right. And I killed a bunch of them. But they said to him, we have come down to arrest you that we may deliver you into the hand of the Philistines. Samson said to them, swear to me that you will not kill me yourself. You know, don't kill me. Take me to them. Samson's got a plan, right? So they spoke to him saying, no, but we will tie you securely. Right? We will tie you securely and deliver you into their hands, but we will surely not kill you. And they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting against him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and the ropes that were on his arms became like flax that is burned with fire, basically wore out, right? And his bonds broke loose from his hands. He found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached out his hand, took it, and killed 1,000 men with it. You know, when the Bible says It killed 1,000 men. How many men you think he killed?
1,000.
Right? Take it literally. 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey. Wow.
I'm quite impressed with that statement.
I know, right? That's crazy. You would think the jawbone of the donkey would wear out after the first few times.
I was thinking at least after the first 10.
Right. 1,000. 1,000 men. All right.
Were they like 5'2" then?
I don't know. With the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey, I have slain 1,000 men. And so it was, when he had finished speaking, that he threw the jawbone from his hand and called that place Ramath Lehi. Then he became very thirsty. He's a big baby, right?
He's a man.
I know. That's kind of what I'm trying to throw out there. Then he became very thirsty, so he cried out to the Lord and said, "You have given this great deliverance by the hand of your servant, and now I shall die of thirst and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised." He's whining, Gary. He just kicked 1,000 tails, right? And he's whining about needing a drink.
He's not going to die instantly from starvation.
I know, right? You would think. So God split the hollow place that is in Lehi, and water came out, and he drank, and his spirit returned to him, and he revived. Therefore, he called its name In Hakor, which is in Lehi to this day. And he judged Israel 20 years in the days of the Philistines. Now, Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her. You can't make this stuff up. I'm telling you. He is not a real smart guy, is he?
Was he in Vegas?
Samson was not a nice guy.
But was he in Vegas or something?
No, he was in Gaza.
Was that like Vegas?
Probably. When the Gazites were told Samson has come here, they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. They were quiet all night, saying, "In the morning, when it is daylight, we will kill him." And Samson lay low till midnight. Then he arose at midnight, took hold of the doors of the gate of the city and the 2 gate posts. These are not small, people. These are the main gates to the entire city, okay? He took hold of the gates and the gate posts, the big posts that hold the gates, okay? Pulled them up, bar and all. Y'all got to remember, there's supposed to be the entire city of Gaza sitting quietly waiting to catch him off guard, and he stands up in the middle of it's kind of like saying, "Here I am, come and get me," right? He's standing in the gate of the city. He reaches out and grabs both sides of the gate, rips them out of the ground, puts them on his shoulders, right, and carries them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. I'd say when he ripped these gates and all these posts out of the ground, the people are going, "You go first." Not me. I ain't going up there, right? I mean,
Rock, scissors, paper, came.
that's it. No. I mean, you have to picture this, right? These are things that when you're reading, sometimes you don't see them, right? You kind of have to have somebody go, "Look at this. This is crazy," right? Says, afterward, it happened that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah.
Wait, hold on. Then what?
Delilah.
So he's in love with a talk show host?
No,
Yeah.
no, not that one.
Well,
All right. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, "Entice him and find out where his great strength lies. We just saw him rip the gates of a city out, right? And carry him to the top of a hill. Find out where he gets this kind of strength. And find out, see, and by what means we may overpower him. As I say, these are the same guys that were, I'm not going up there, right? Same guys, okay? Same guys. And they're like, find out how we can overtake him because he's too powerful for us. That we may bind him to afflict him. And every one of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. That's a lot of money back then, 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, please tell me where your great strength lies and with what you may be bound to afflict you. Samson said to her, if they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. So the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, and she bound him with them. Now men were lying in wait, staying with her in the room. And she said to him, the Philistines are among you, Samson. But he broke the bowstrings as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength was not known. Then Delilah said to Samson, look, you have mocked me and told me lies. Now please tell me what you may be bound with. So he said to her, if they bind me securely with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. Therefore Delilah took new ropes, bound him with them, and said to them, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And men were lying in wait, staying in the room. But he broke them off his arm like a thread. Delilah said to Samson, until now you have mocked me and told me lies. Of course I have. You've tried to trick me twice already, right? And told me lies. Tell me what you may be bound with. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head into the web of a loom. So she wove it tightly with the batten of the loom and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the baton and the web from the loom. Then she said to him, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You've mocked me these 3 times. Well, yeah, keep trying. There's something weird or fishy going on here, right? When I wake up and my hair's weaved into a loom, I'm kind of thinking you're not on my side anymore, right? And it came, by the way, where'd you get that loom anyway? It wasn't here earlier, right? And it came to pass when she pestered him daily with her words. If you notice, Samson gives in to a little bit of pestering every once in a while. All us men do, don't we, Gary? You know, the 30th time they ask you to take the garbage out, you might actually do it. And it came to pass when she pestered him daily with her words and pressed him so that his soul was vexed to death, that he told her all his heart. Shouldn't have done that. And said to her, no razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. When Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up once more, for he has told me all his heart. So the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hand. Then she lulled him to sleep on her knees and called for a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. I don't know about y'all, but I think if a woman started rubbing or a man or whoever it was here, shaving the hair off of my head with a razor, I think I'd wake up. I don't know. That tells me that he might have been drunk or something. I mean, why not? He's not paid any attention to his Nazirite vow anyway, right? So the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hand. Then she lulled him to sleep on her knees and called for a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. Then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. And she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." So he awoke from sleep and said, "I will go out as before at other times and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. Then the Philistines took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza. They bound him with bronze fetters, and he became a grinder in the prison. You all know what that means? Anybody? Become a grinder in the prison? It's where they ground their wheat and ground their rice and ground their stuff. They had the great big huge stone, one on top of another. They would fill all the wheat, the seeds or whatever, and then the men would be shackled to the thing, and they would walk around and around in circles, grinding the wheat and grinding the that's what that was. He's a grinder in the prison. Why? Because he's a big, strong feller, right? However, the hair of his head began to grow again, and after it had been shaven. One part we didn't read, down in over in Deuteronomy. Where did we read? Numbers was the end of that Levite vow, and it was once they shaved their head, they could start letting it grow out again. They could become a Levite again. Okay, so if you read the rest of that, it would show how to do that. And that's why it says here, the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaven. Now the lords of the Philistines gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to rejoice. And they said, "Our God has delivered into our hands Samson, our enemy." Little do they know, the true one and only God delivered Samson into their hands, not, right, for glory, for their God, but for his glory. Okay? It says, when they saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has delivered into our hands our enemy, the destroyer of our land, and the one who multiplied our dead." So it happened when their hearts were merry that they said, "Call for Samson that he may perform for us like a monkey," right? So they called for Samson from the prison, and he performed for them. And they stationed him between 2 pillars. Then Samson said to the lad who held him by the hand, "Let me feel the pillars which support the temple, so that I can lean on them." Now the temple was full of men and women, and the lords of the Philistines were there, about 3,000 men and women on the roof, watching while Samson performed. Then Samson called to the Lord, saying, "O Lord God, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me, I pray, just this once, O God, that I may, with one blow, take vengeance on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars which supported the temple, and he braced himself against them, one on his right and the other on his left. Then Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he pushed with all his might, and the temple fell on the lords and all the people who were in it. So the dead that he killed at his death were more than he had killed in his whole life. And his brothers and all his father's household came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had judged Israel 20 years. And that is the end of our reading plan in the book of Judges, because Samson was basically the very last judge. Like I said, when we first started the book of Judges, this was a really dark time in Israel. And from this final judge throughout the last final chapter of Judges, after Samson dies, people just continue to get more and more and more violent, and evil prevails more and more throughout the time, at every turn. I'm not going to read it to you, but I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the rest of the book here, because there's only a few chapters. We're not going to read them. But after Samson is gone, everything just kind of goes into total darkness. This is the final judge, and when he's gone, right, total darkness and chaos ensues. We find that we've got one guy that finds a Levite that was down on his luck. Okay, y'all know who the Levite was, right? He was a priest. Okay, see, this Levite was down on his luck because there were no temples for him to work at anymore. Okay, people didn't worship God because all of Israel was basically worshiping everyone else's God at this point. This is right after Samson. And so the Levites, the priests, since they never got any land to themselves, okay, back when Joshua divided up the land, remember, the Levites never got any land to themselves because the Levites were supposed to be holy people that were set apart by God, and all of the other families, all of the other tribes were supposed to take care of the Levites, right? And so when everybody stopped worshiping God, they weren't taking care of the Levites anymore. Okay, so the Levites were basically homeless people now. They didn't have any temples. They didn't have a home. They didn't have any land. They didn't have any way to grow any food or have anything at all. They didn't have any work, no money, no home, no food. Basically, they were just out in the cold. Okay? But then after Samson dies, we come to a story of one guy that finds a homeless Levi, and he brings him into his house, and he gets him to set up God worship, not big G God, but little g God, okay? Because they were all worshiping idols, right? And so he finds this Levite and he goes, hey, if I'm doing good worshiping this idol, I could bring this Levite in who knows how to talk to gods, right? Thinking gods. And so he brings this guy in. He goes, okay, I'm going to set up my God, my idol thing here, and you're gonna be my personal little priest to all these little gods, okay? And that's what he did. He set them up. And then this other group of people, they come in and they see this Levite, and this guy is really doing okay with this Levite praying to all these gods. He's actually doing pretty good. And so they see this and they're like, well, we want your Levite. We want that priest. And so they steal him from them. thinking that this guy's got something going on good, right? And so they steal this Levite from him and they take him away, and then it all goes downhill from there for these guys. And then we find that the Benjamites, the next story is the Benjamites who rape a poor slave girl to death. I mean, they take her and they just spread her around the entire city of Benjamin, and they literally rape her to death. And the guy that owns this girl, right, he takes her home and he cuts her into 12 pieces, and he sends a piece of her to every tribe in Israel. It gets sick. I mean, things go bad, right? Well, if that's not enough, right? They have a war, and the entire children of Israel go to war against Benjamin because this happened, because because of what happened in Benjamin. They all go to war against it. Basically, all the children of Israel start fighting with each other, and it totally destroys them from the inside out. Okay? They wipe out all of Benjamin's women. All of them. And so they come up with this plan because they all said, you know what? We're not going to give Benjamin any of our women. They're just going to die out. Without any women, they would all die out, right? Okay? The Benjamites would just be gone. And so they made this pact. They said, we're going to kill all Benjamin's women, and we're not going to give any of our women to them. And so they go in, they kill out all the women, and then they immediately feel bad about it. And so they go, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to throw this party, okay? And we're going to have all these women there. And they go to Benjamin and say, okay, we're going to have a party, and we're going to have all these women. And if somebody just happens to show up and steal a bunch of our women, we couldn't do anything about it. And so they have this big party with all these women, and then Benjamin lies in wait in the bushes, and when all the women are there, they all jump out, sneak out, steal a bunch of women for themselves, and then run back home. That way, the tribes didn't have to give them any women. They stole the women. I'm telling you, some of this stuff you can't make up. I'm telling you, if I was writing a book, I would not write stuff like this, right? But it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And I want to ask you, why did this book have to be written? Why would all this terribleness from Israel? This was how bad Israel was, right? God is telling us how horrible they are. Why would he want us to know this? Why would this book have to be written? It's a terrible book in a terrible time in Israel's history. Why did God have to tell us? What's the main point of the book of Judges? I want you all to turn chapter 21, verse 25. We're almost done. Chapter 21, verse 25 of Judges. I want somebody to read what it says.
In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes.
That right there is the key to the book of Judges. That is why God gave us the book of Judges. In those days, there was no king in Israel. You know, from the time of Israel's inception until now, till this very time in the book of Judges, Israel had no king. From the time that God told Abraham, I want you to leave home, I'm going to build a country with you. Until this very point in time, there was no king. Israel had no king. Okay? Sure, they could call on God, right? Israel could call on God when they needed him, but they never, and that's a really sad thing, Gary. They never allowed God to be king. They could call on him like a genie. Hey, I need you today, but I don't need you tomorrow. The book of Judges is preparing the children of Israel and us, right, for that matter, for a king. And his name is Jesus Christ. His name is King Jesus. Up until this part of the book, we know God, we know the children of Israel, and we know all about evil, right? We know who God is, we know who the children of Israel are, and we know all about evil. But we don't know our king yet. And the book of Judges is here to remind us why we need our king. Because without him, we become an evil swamp of people. And we end up doing all the same things over and over and over again. And we have allowed God to not be our king again. And it's getting bad. We need to remember that he's our king. And we want him to be our king. We don't want Washington to be our king. We don't want anything else to be our king. God is our king. And when we start treating him like that, we'll see some beautiful things happen in our lives. Next time, we're in one of the most beautiful stories in the entire Bible, Ruth. I'm telling you, I love the book of Ruth. I hope I can get through it in 1 hour, but I really doubt it. Because Ruth is just an amazing book. So, anybody got anything to say about Judges? All right, let's pray. Lord, thank you for bringing us here this evening and just having a good meeting together and hanging out together and having dinner and a birthday party for Gary. Just thank you for everything, Lord. We just so much appreciate coming together as a family and as a group and as a church. And the fellowship, I really like the fellowship on Wednesday nights. Lord, thank you for allowing us to read your word, the Bible, and the things that you have put together for us to dig in and study and learn and just see new things that we may not have seen before. Lord, I just thank you for all that you do for us every day. Lord, go with us through the rest of this week. There's supposed to be another storm front moving in. And Lord, just I pray that we all stay safe and healthy and warm this rest of this week, Lord. Allow us to come back this Sunday morning with a fresh new look on Daniel and the next part of his visions. Lord, help me to put that message together to be able to speak to your people the way that you want to speak to them. Lord, I want to pray for Vaughn and Jamaica, and Helen and Bill, and just Kathy and everybody that's missing tonight. The Lamberts, Lord, we pray for them. And Lord, we want to pray for Esty. We miss her. Know that she's still in the nursing home, my mom and dad. Lord, I pray for each and every person in this church that's here and that's not been able to make it, Dave and Judy, that people that haven't been able to make it because of the mess of the world's in right now. Lord, just lift us all up as we prepare to go home this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.